Alright, so I haven't made one of these for a while, so we'll see how we go. Yeah, so this one showed up, and obviously I found it too irresistible. Just how much was on offer here for anyone who's actually interested in seeing what's below the surface, how the sham is run, etc. So I'm just going to start playing it, and then I'm going to start unpacking it for you. So here we go.
The flag didn't do anything. It was the sacrifice and the efforts of the people that burnished that flag, that gave that flag meaning. Just like these flags here all have meaning because somebody did something under that flag. The flag itself is meaningless without the struggle and the efforts of the people. What we have to do is this: we must come together. One country, one people, and the symbolism is important because we get this one flag, whatever it is. I've got some preferences, and mine are best, of course. But what matters is we come under this one flag, and it goes up, and we all just go, we salute the flag.
All right there's your first one. We all come together and salute the flag. There's your collectivism right there in one bundle. If you don't know what that is, I've made previous videos, so go look it up. It's about the 1901 collectivist Communist Manifesto. I think it's in the 120s, like 126 on to 129, something like that. So have a look at those video posts. So he's just saying there, like, you salute, like, what's the purpose of a salute, right? So already been conditioned to be an order follower. That's the only people who salute is order followers, right? So now he's turning you into an order follower and saying that's something virtuous, right? So you've already been prompted. So let's listen on.
And the constitution for which it stands in time. Does that make sense? And we have a constitution that indicates that you are the sovereigns of this nation.
So what he's doing is following the American model. You know how they all get really super patriotic over this constitution, like that is something that defends their rights. That's not what a constitution does. A constitution is what places the limits on people who choose to act in service so that they don't become criminal. And it's about setting that understanding in the minds of the people so they know how to assess it. That's all it is. It's a limitation on those who seek to be in a position of authority. It's got nothing to do with you. A constitution is to protect you from tyranny if you understand what it's for. So whatever he's shaping here has got nothing to do with the purpose of a constitution. That's why you would never salute to any version of that. You don't salute to your own freedom. That doesn't make any sense because you are just naturally born free. Okay, let's listen.
Not Betty Two-Stroke from the UK. Now, or Charles III.
So now what he's done is made that classic error of not understanding the difference between a sovereign being and the office holder of sovereign. This is someone who doesn't know how to make that distinction. So what he's saying is Queen Elizabeth, back when she was supposedly the monarch, I'm not saying that she was a lawful one by any means, but let's just go with that for now, that she was the sovereign. No. What she was the office holder of sovereign. So it's just denoted as the sovereign as a term, but she herself doesn't have sovereign power because she's the highest ranking public servant. That's all that is. Because someone needs to be responsible for holding the whole system of public servants together. And that's what the monarch is. Now it's Prince Charles, or now he's called King Charles. Not that I'm saying he's actually a lawful monarch, just let's not get confused with that. So it's just a symbolic position where someone needs to be responsible if everything comes down. Someone needs to be accountable for that, to hold the whole system together. No different to a wise elder in a village. It's no different. It's exactly the same. That's all it means. So this just shows you how little this guy understands or how he's deliberately deceiving. One or the other, I can't prove it.
Sorry, we've changed, haven't we? But when that flag gets up, if you don't think it has meaning, if you don't like it, all the more reason to redouble your efforts to work harder, to sacrifice more, to work more, to contribute more, to do for your country what you need to do your duty. You've got to do your duty because it's just got to be done.
All right. So everything he's just said in that moment, if you don't like your flag, there's something defective about you. So you better be a better slave at learning how to love what your masters have created as your symbol of oppression. That's all the flag is. It's the ruling class have created their little banner, and that your job is to love it and obey it. Like it's all obligatory. Anything where there's obligation or duty, that is slavery. That's what that is. It's a euphemism for slavery, because we are actually meant, and the way we're created is to be voluntary, right? Is always voluntary interaction. There is no duty in freedom. There is no obligation in freedom. If you're free, you do things voluntarily as an individual, not because you're supposed to. Now I love this image because that basically points to what the whole thing that he's saying is. This is all the rhetoric, the same rhetoric that any dictator in history, whether they were Mussolini, Hitler, Pol Pot, Stalin, you name it, they all said the same stuff, right? This is all that collectivist. You don't have any rights. It's virtuous to work for the people. You're one of the people. This is that collectivist mindset. You're all one group. And this picture says it all, right? And that's where you're marching. This is all about harvest and plunder. And he's setting that up beautifully, right? And you'll hear later, he promises you the world. He gives you platitudes. This is all classic collectivist speech. So I'm just going to let this pass on, and he's going to come back into it in a second.
And your efforts will fill that flag with so much meaning. Your great-grandkids will fly that flag and say, weren't they the greatest generation of Australians
There's your platitudes
that ever lived? I am now looking at the greatest generation of Australians that ever lived. And
Have you ever heard someone blow smoke up your ass? Here it comes.
I mean that.
All right, flattery, the act of praising someone often in a way that is not sincere because you want something from them. Be very, very mindful of anyone who's flattering you, all right? Because that's usually what's behind it. And then you've got hyperbole, a way of speaking or writing that makes someone or something sound bigger, better, more than they actually are. So why would someone do that, right? Why would they blow smoke up your ass, right? What's that about, right? If people are really their own true selves and they are self-driven, they don't need to be inspired by any of this huff and puff speak, because they'll be naturally drawn to their own life values. They've got to know what they are first. And if they can see that their actions are contributing to their life values, that's all the motivation they need. They don't need to be cheered up into it, or jeered up, or given some kind of pep talk. People don't need that. They know intuitively what's going to fulfill their life values. Now, the people who cheer for this stuff, these are people who cannot identify that. They struggle, and that's why they seek the leader, because they're lost as to how to find that direction within themselves. So that's who these people like this appeal to. And unfortunately, there's far too many of them. And that's the issue with the whole system that we've got going. That's not dying in a hurry, right? They're just swapping one for the other. Because what every dictator has ever done is they've picked on the current system. They've totally picked it apart and shown how bad it is. And then what do? They promise you a better tomorrow, that you're going to be the best it's ever been. All you got to do is sacrifice a little. They're shaping you already to give up your rights, the things you're born with, because it's virtuous to do something for the collective. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. That collectivist speech, all that stuff. That's what that's
But remember, you are sovereign. You are the source of all human law.
So now he's telling you you're sovereign while he's coaching you into collectivism, right? So this is that confusing message. That confusing messaging is part of how mind control works, right? It's to give you bits of things that they contradict each other.
Not divine law, that's his business.
All right, so this guy's a real big fan of this one deity, this Christian deity, the one that the Christians invented. So if I haven't knocked your nose out of joint by now, this one most likely will. So let's see what it says. Religion, the biggest hoax on earth. I hope I can get rid of it. No, I can't get rid of that. The devil ain't a person or a place. It's an enemy you carry. Why don't I believe in God? Because God sent himself to impregnate a woman with himself so he could be born, pray to himself, really think about that, and then kill himself in order to sacrifice himself to himself so he can forgive sins he created himself in order to save us from hell created by himself, so as to save himself sounds like something even himself wouldn't believe. So I want you to sit with that for a moment, and this is the kind of stuff this guy pushes, right? This external authority figure that knows better than you, that has this divine plan, yada yada, we just got to fulfill our bit. Another collectivist mentality, right? This was done centuries ago, and only people who get it know how to cash in on it, right? And he's one of them. So that's what I just wanted to show you
Not
there.
natural law, because you didn't set the seasons.
Now he's going to give you some really base, like dense understanding of natural law. Right? Check this out.
You didn't set the sunrise and the sunset, right? So there are rules within which we must operate.
All right, so here we go. So from one of the people that he himself actually promotes, Thomas Jefferson. He loves banging on about Thomas Jefferson, the founding fathers, yada yada. I wonder if he's ever told you this part. A free people claim their rights as derived from the laws of nature and not as the gift of their magistrates. Now, the guy that's on screen just a moment ago, he's gone out of his way to talk about how there needs to be a ruling class, right? That they're going to be empowering government. And the way he shapes it to you is that you get to vote for your own judges, right? So you're still voting for a ruling class. And because you voted for it, well, then that grants them authority to decide for you, because you couldn't possibly know how to decide for yourself. Like, you don't have that capacity, right? You just have to go into all these videos. You'll see him says it out loud, right? Just when he tells you what's going to happen in schools when he starts running them, right? How they're going to be forced into sport, because that builds character. You know, nothing to do with your individual rights there. It's all what the right thing to do is, as prescribed by your ruling class master. So you're swapping one ruling class for another. That's what he's shaping you for. So you're just being pushed out of one paddock into a new one. The only difference is you're going to have a different face on your master. Like what's new there, right? So this is the stuff. When he talks about natural law, he doesn't give you the real perspective of what it means. He just talks about it like it looks like he knows what he's talking about, like he has some understanding, just to cover his bases. But in reality, he doesn't have a clue. Or he's deliberately doing it deceptively. Couldn't tell you. All right, so this is a slide I pinched from Mark Passio, so I just, I guess I'm trying to save myself a bit of time typing things up. I'm not going to get into symbolism of that. You can make what you want of it there on that right-hand side, that justice card, because a lot of people are going to come up with their own version of reality, but I just don't want to waste my time on that. I want to get into what it says here. Okay, so what we're not getting to is the heart of the problem. The fundamental nature of the problem of human slavery is that most human beings do not have a full and accurate understanding of true objective morality and natural law. And people have they believe they know it, but they really don't. And anyone who's listening to this guy is proven they don't have a clue about those two things. This ignorance leads them to erroneously believe that human behavior, based upon the belief in authority. And when he says authority here, he actually means they're a ruling class. There's a legitimate need for a ruling class to forcibly dominate and control the populace. That's what's meant here by belief in authority, which this guy being an order follower, that's what he's done his whole life, and giving you orders, he sits right in the pocket. Belief in authority are morally legitimate and acceptable, excuse me, when they are absolutely not. As a result, many behaviors which most human beings, what does that say here? It's in the way, enact and...
Man's law, on the other hand...
Stop that. I need to bring that back. Enact and condone are completely out of alignment with natural law. So now Mark's going to get into, who I just pinched this slide from, he's going to get into the difference, because he says man-made law. If you listen to what he said earlier, he said that all law derives from you, man-made law. So this is what we're going to unpack now, what he is actually talking about, what the dangers of what that is, right? So let me just bring Mark on.
Man's law, on the other hand, let's look at how this contrasts with natural law. It's not based on principles and truth. It's based on dogmatic beliefs that are programs that are running in the human mind. These are constructs of the mind that operate like programs. Man's law is complied with due to the fear of the punishment that will be conducted upon people who attempt to not comply with it. It's most of the only reason people ever comply with the law of man. And that's a very low state of consciousness, fear. That really is only going to get you all the negative things that we say we don't want if we're in that vibration.
So that's really important to understand, right? So he's pushing man-made law, and he's pushing it through making a constitution. And like I said, a constitution is not about making laws. It's about drawing the line around what a system of service is allowed to do, and so the people can actually judge it when they step out of that line. and then the people know what to do when that happens. Right? That's the purpose of that, is that there's some kind of organized way that we deal with that when that happens in reality, so we all know what to do. And that's really what a constitution is, right? And that exists in Article 61, that last part I said, when people know what to do when there's a line that's been crossed. Article 61 is all about that. It's like an instruction of how we organise ourselves, what are the steps that are legitimately been agreed to that need to happen. No different to, if you have a fire in your house, what are you going to do? There's certain steps you need to take to try and extinguish that. Same thing, you look at it as a fire in the house, and what's going to be required to extinguish it and return the integrity back into that house. Like there's certain steps that need to happen. So that's all that is. And very few people really understand the purpose of the Constitution. Until you understand that, you're going to keep falling for people like this who keep throwing these curveballs in, making it sound like it's legitimate when it really isn't, because they don't know principle, or they deliberately obfuscate the knowledge of principle. Can't prove it, so it's one or the other. So that's the difference between what he's saying about man-made law and the fact that you cannot make laws. Man can't make law. The closest they can do to what you call man-made law is through the decisions of a jury. So then all they're doing is setting the moral standards of the community through the decisions made by a jury of social equals, whether that's against one of their people that live in their community that may have wronged somebody else, or whether that's a public servant, right? The people decide on that, and it's just in the moment. They don't have a set of rules as far as to what punishments go with what, because every single situation is unique. So it needs to be dealt with on a one-on-one basis uniquely. That's all matters of laws are. You can't write that down, right? And later you're going to hear how he actually wants to do that. So I love this one. The truth is not always beautiful, nor beautiful words of truth. That last one about God, that sits right in there. So, if you've got your nose out of joint by now, this ain't going to be any better for you. So we're going to move on to the next section.
Inciting them to violence. Let's give a 3 cheers for the good cops who have done the right thing for the longest possible time. It's a bugger of a job. Let's give the coppers a cheer. Hip! Hip! Hip!
What was all that about? How many times have you heard him talk about the police being, part of the Masons, etc., etc.? And now look what he's done, right? Is that more confusion? And what has he done? He's got his little order followers, right, to follow him along, because, they don't want to go, hang on a sec, I don't want to challenge you on this, but this doesn't feel right to me. Why are we giving hippie parades? How can there be a good cop? There's no such thing. If you're a constable, your duty is to actually bring anyone who violates human rights, or not human rights actually, I'll take that back, individual rights, to bring them to justice. They're the ones who are the violators of individual rights. And so there can't be one good cop. Even if one doesn't do it and they witness someone else, they're actually complicit in it. So where he's got that idea from, all of a sudden, there's some chopping and changing here. It's starting to look really distressing.
Don't get carried away.
Well, this is going to really set the cat amongst the pigeons now. So I saw this one show up. Whether it's true or not, can't prove it. Just some interesting things here. Early Italian newspapers in Australia had writers like Pino Bossi and supporters like Franco Corsa B.A. Santa Maria. Linked to the Jesuit Catholic Church, funding came directly from the Angeli family, House of Bourbon, black nobility who supported fascism and Mussolini. So this just showed up. I'm like, wow, what a gift. There you go. You've got the Order of Australia, right? So, he gets one of those. Like I said, that could have just been superimposed on there. I don't know. Still, it's in the field of possibility, just putting it out there. But, how do people come from just being an everyday migrant, right, to now getting to a position of prominence? How does that happen? Is that an accident? You've got to ask yourself that, right? And you look at all the leaders of all the different communities when it came to the COVID lockdowns. Did they stand against it and go, no, hang on a sec, that's not right? Or did they actually start pushing it on their communities? Really important questions to ask. Look at the behaviour. It'll tell you everything. So that was just something else to throw up there.
Okay, what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, look, last words. I've got the last words to say. Do you have the right to free speech?
Now, this is really good, right? Anyone who's ever done any sales, pay attention to the yes train, right? If you've done any sales training, The job of someone who is trying to make a sale is to get you to start saying yes. So you start saying things that you know you're going to get an answer of yes to. So watch how he does it.
Yeah, damn right you do. And who gave it to you? The Prime Minister? No. Do you have the right to defend yourself? Yes. When seconds count, the police are just minutes away.
So there you go. At the moment he's like cheering for the police. Now he's having to go at him. See what I mean? All these confusing things. That's the classic way to stifle people, is get them confused.
You have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to defend yourself. Do you have the right to be protected from unfair search and seizure without a warrant? Yes. Damn right you do. Do you have the right to assemble peaceably? Yes. Would you like those rights enumerated in a thing called the Bill of Rights?
There it comes. You see how he's done it? He's leading you to that. Now, anyone who understands what a bill is, it's either one or two things or both. A bill is some kind of debt, you know, when you handed a bill, or it's something created by Parliament, right? They can't create laws. All they can do is create legislation, or what they call statute law, right? That doesn't have enforceable power. And now he wants to use that organ or that institution to now institutionalize what your rights are. Now, how do you do that? You think about how that would work. Because if it's not on the list, then it can be said, well, it's not a right because it's not on this list. Now, do you think how massively extensive that list would be? It would be unlimited. It would go on forever. That's not how rights work. Rights are things that are inherent, actions that are inherent to you to conduct, right? Just to go about and fulfill the quality of your life. That's all it is. How are you going to list that out? This is total madness, right? As soon as you hear someone say enumerated rights, that's your big red flag right there. This is the same thing about codifying law. It's no different. And that's what he's trying to get you to believe, that this is a way to protect yourself, right? Just like in the, he bangs on about the Second Amendment, the right to carry weapons or whatever. No, there's no such thing as someone can grant you a right to do that. Doesn't matter if it's the whole community. That's not a thing, So that's like one of the best mind tricks on the planet, is to start picking things that people are attached to and then sort of try and codify that. That's not how rights work. And so until people understand that principle, they're going to think that this is some kind of protective thing. No, it's not. Like I said, a constitution is not about what you are or are not allowed to do. It's about the limits on the public service, those who claim they wish to act in our service. It's about the enforceable line that exists so you can assess when they become criminal. And then you have a course of action to take. Nothing else, right? Until that gets through people's heads, they're going to keep falling for this stuff.
Damn right you would. Because once that happens, that's the moment that your sovereign rights are recognized by us as a group.
So they can't be recognized any other way, right? It has to be done through this piece of paper, like seriously. All right, let's look at the rights. The term rights is rooted in knowledge of natural law. There we come back to that again, right? Until people start understanding natural law, which he pretends he does, but he doesn't. Or if he does, he's not letting you know. So he's not educating you very well. Rights are actions that protect all aspects of one's integrity. Integrity comes from the word integer. That means your wholeness, right? Like a whole number. Hence, the right actions needed to preserve peace and harmonious coexistence of all life. So you want to think about that. So how can you enumerate that? Rights are inherent in nature, regardless of a population's belief system, because rights are eternal truths that need to be understood, because rights are actions in harmony with natural law. So again, think about what that means and how many people really get into that, right?
Natural.
Whoops, I went past it. No, I forgot to talk about this one. Let me just move it a bit. Have I gotten too far? No. Where is it? Is it this one? When one acts on the belief that rights can be granted and taken away, the laws of nature deliver consequences of that pursuit, which always leads to chaos. That's really important to understand, right? If you believe you can grant rights through writing it down, you're going against the laws of nature. Right? The same thing that Thomas Jefferson said earlier. That we're not derived by some kind of imagined authority figure. The rights don't come from there. They're just there. It's about us caring enough to understand that. All right, let's move to Mark.
natural law, what does that mean for the laws of man here on earth? Well, what it actually means, it's simple if-then logic to apply. If a particular man-made law is in harmony with natural law, then it follows logically that it is redundant. It is stating the obvious. It is stating what is already known. It's like saying, I'm going to write down, yes, during the day the sky refracts a blue frequency. The sky is blue. I'm going to write that down and make it so.
So that's really, really important, guys. That's what I was saying earlier. If it's just self-evident, it's self-evident. It doesn't need to be written down. You know it in your heart, in your soul. Your conscience knows all of this stuff. It doesn't need to be written down. We all have it imprinted in us. The second thing it says down here is if a particular man-made law is in opposition to natural law, then it follows logically that it is both false, incorrect, and immoral, which is harmful, and or in other words, wrong. Therefore, it cannot be legitimately binding upon anyone. So that's what current system works at. It makes legislation where it calls it law. So then you believe you have a moral obligation to obey it. And he's pushing the same stuff. No different. It's just he's going to have his band of criminals in charge. That's the only difference. But the actual structure is exactly the same. So until you learn this, you're going to keep falling for it.
It's redundant. It's self-evident. You can go out in the sky and look at the natural color of the sky on a clear day and see what the frequency is with your own eyes. No, you don't need to have it written down. Okay? It's a redundancy. So if it's in harmony already with natural law, it's stating a truth that is already there. It's an inherent truth. It's pre-existing. It's self-evident. Therefore, the writing down of that concept and calling it a law is irrelevant and unnecessary.
So this is where we're going with someone like this guy, right? We're going to live in opposition to natural law because he thinks you can write your rights down, right? That's not natural law. It doesn't operate like that. And then we're going to be right back where we started before we even embarked on any version of trying to free ourselves, right? It's control, enslavement, war, evolutionary stagnation, and extinction. That's all that's coming for us, so no different. Now, if we understand natural law, if people care enough to understand it, the principles that are embedded in there, then this is what's coming for us. And we all need to be unified around this, because if we don't understand that, as a collective, the same principles, then we're just going to have more entropy, right? And so once that's understood, when people care enough to learn this for themselves, not look towards leaders, because that's not how it works, you have your own divine capacity to discern fact from fiction if you care enough to do it. Right? It's about caring enough, and stop looking to the leader. Right? It's to claim that which you were born to use. And that is your intuition, your discernment, your capacity to distinguish fact from fiction. You have that. You are born with it. You just need to activate it. And that will lead to freedom, peace, prosperity, survival, and evolutionary progress. And this is what's missing, is people's care to want to understand this. So that's all I'm going to do on that one, guys. I hope you're getting some value out of it. I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to get their nose out of joint, and I'm going to get a lot of vitriol. However, truth isn't always beautiful, nor are beautiful words the truth. Okay, now just to finish off, I just want to draw your attention to, if you're interested in understanding where all this knowledge has come from and what it's connected to, here's a brilliant site for you. It's the Magna Carta 1215 Australia site. So just quickly, Magna Carta is that agreement that's still in place today that allows for a system of public servants throughout the entire English Commonwealth system of justice. And that's what all public servants swear an oath to. So they're bound by that entire structure. And so if you just want to have a quick look of where to find something that you can learn specific to do with police right now, I'd go to the Action Now page. So here it is here. And you can see there's letters here to the police constable, judicial officer, lots of information of things I just said there, but in a lot more detail, and the public servant one as well. And then there's different versions of that here, child protection, if they're using pre-crime, which they all do, which is just order following from legislative branch, which they have no authority to do. That makes them criminal as soon as they start dictating the minutiae of your life. Here you go, dear police commissioner, if you want to get even more detail, and this one's specific to Victoria. Okay, so there's lots for you to look through here. You've got news and articles, so there's plenty of things to read here, as you can see. So the first one here is the secure boundaries for freedom to prevail. That's what the Magna Carta is all about. Pretty much what I just described to you earlier, where the individual right to decide for ourselves and govern ourselves. That's what that protects. otherwise we're slaves, right? So it's really simple, and there's just more stuff here to do that. Just going to move over to the learning section. So you've got videos, so plenty of video resources here. The Magna Carta lessons, as you can see here. Then you've got, this is brilliant, this is 2-minute description of the true nature of the control system we live under. If you want to learn that real quick. So here's Will Kidd again. So he's done a few vids, as you can see. So he's done a lot of research on this topic, years and years. This is Mark Pascoe. This is about natural law, if you're really interested in that, because everything comes from the knowledge of natural law. And if you don't understand natural law, you'll always be controlled. This is an attempt to start getting from basics and principles and moving up to understanding how that fits in with the Constitution and what that really means. So that's another thing to look at here. John Locke does a lot of great stuff here on Article 61. So then you've got the reading version of that. So that's the, if you like that, you've got reading. So I'm just going to point you to one specific one. To me, this is the one I'd go to straight away if I really wanted to learn something, and that's this one, the Constitutional Treatise. This breaks it down really simply. So that's all I wanted to show you guys. If you are interested in educating yourselves and your children about how true freedom works and your rights and how they're protected under this structure, and anything else is a fiction, and it's deliberately created to actually bamboozle you to think that public servants have the right to forcibly dominate and control you and take your money and then treat you as their cattle and property, right? If you want to understand how that's been done, it's a great place to come and do it. That'll do.